Hello, good evening and welcome to Business Live. Now, government urged to leverage green bonds to finance critical projects in the country as the nation marks Green Ghana Day. We'll hear from a partner of accounting and auditing firm, Deloitte Ghana.
You are in a position like you find ourselves, and you go to market using the green bonds or using the green market initiative. And what you do is that you are likely to get investors and financiers who support the ESG initiative. The ESG initiative means that environmentally, social, and governance-friendly projects.
Also coming up, finance expert Joe Jackson warns full IMF program benefits would not be realized unless government concludes debt restructuring deal with external creditors.
You've got to look at two things. Number one is that the rates are still going to be high. The rates even from the central bank are high. So if you're going to be borrowing, the rates are not going to come down as quickly as you think.
Now, farmers across the country have been urged to consider the option of tree planting in diversifying their income and mitigating the impact of climate change.
It is very important that there is diversification, that there is also, of course, forest cover, that this is done in an ecological way. This is very important. So we also look how to green further this landscape, production landscapes. We think that diversification is a strategy for resilience.
Next is commodities. The very first story, the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, has reiterated his commitment to seeking innovative financial solutions to leverage investments in forest conservation. According to him, the funds would be allocated to forest agencies to manage and maintain the country's forest reserves. Minister of State at the Finance Ministry, I beg your pardon, Dr. Mohammed Amin Adam, read a speech on his behalf at a tree planting ceremony to mark this year's Green Ghana Day.
The Finance Ministry, led by the Minister of State at the Finance Ministry and other state agencies, planted trees to mark this year's Green Ghana Day celebration. This year's celebration is themed Our Forests, Our Health. In a speech read on his behalf, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta reiterated his commitment to seeking financial solutions to managing Ghana's forest reserves.
I am fully committed to mobilizing the necessary resources to support our forest conservation and sustainable development agenda. We will allocate funds to strengthen the capacities of our forest agencies, to enhance monitoring and enforcement mechanisms, and to provide incentives for sustainable forest management practices. Additionally, we will work closely with international partners and seek innovative financing solutions to leverage investments in forest conservation and climate resilience. Today, I call on every Ghanaian to embrace their role as custodians of our forests. Let us join hands in planting trees, protecting our natural resources, and promoting sustainable living.
Deputy Finance Minister Abnor Asari added that the ministry will explore all available options to address challenges confronting Ghana's forest reserves.
There are a number of opportunities out there that we are all trying to see how best we can take advantage of. And so very soon, Ministry of Finance will be setting up a climate division here and to take advantage of the resources, the relatively cheaper resources out there to help address some of these issues that have come about as a result of the adverse effects of the climate change.
10 million trees are expected to be planted this year as part of Green Ghana celebration.
Meanwhile, partner at Deloitte Ghana, Yao Latte, is optimistic Ghana can leverage green bonds to undertake some critical projects in the country. According to him, Ghana needs to consider these alternative sources of funding to finance developmental projects in the country. He spoke on the marketplace.
I think the moving to green economy will help us in so many different ways. As you know, international development partners and financial institutions will more likely finance green projects than to give or support commercial lending. So historically, we benefited from, let's say, Eurobond and others. If you are in a position like we find ourselves, and you go to market using the green bonds or using the green market initiative, and what you do is that you are investors and financiers who support the ESG initiative. The ESG initiative means that environmentally, social, and governance-friendly projects. So if you go to international market and say you are building a hospital that is supposed to support mothers in the village so that you reduce the mortality rate in the village, it may be a $200 million project. It will be easily financed because it supports what we call the ESG initiative, environmental, social, and governance and sustainable initiatives. Secondly, if you go to international market and you say you are raising bonds to support a project that is social compliant, and an example is where you are building affordable housing for people who cannot afford the average housing in Ghana. You will get funding from people who support what we call social bonds. So people who give money to support social bonds, hospitals, and then affordable housing, you are likely to get support for that. So I think where we find ourselves, green bonds is actually something that we should be considering, and we should have been considering some time ago. But I think it's about time we consider these alternative financing products. And the second benefit that you get is that these are relatively cheaper compared to, let's say, borrowing from the commercial market or borrowing to support any other project. If you go to the green bonds market.
Now, some of the oil marketing companies and bulk oil distributors have backed out of government's Gold for Oil program. The program, which took off in January this year, is aimed at reducing fuel prices at the pumps. The country took its first consignment of 40,000 metric tons for onward supply to the oil companies and used gold and cash to buy finished products for the market. But Chief Executive of the Chamber, Dr. Patrick Kwekuofori, says that some of the oil firms withdrew from the program due to unresolved concerns. We're now joined on Zoom by energy strategist Dr. Yusuf Sulemana for his perspectives on this development. Now, Doc, we are glad that you are able to join us. We do know substantively that some of the OMCs are raising concerns that they do not want to participate in the program, and they are alleging that their issues and concerns have not been resolved. Do you think that enough consultation did not precede the rollout of the program?
Thank you very much, and good evening to you and your cherished viewers in Ghana and across the globe. Indeed, this program, when it set in, when it actually kicked in, what we recommended, or what some of us recommended, was the fact that, I mean, we have already we have an existing industry that is doing so fantastic. I'll always say that though I have my few issues with the PSPs, but to be able to hold the fort, without a refinery, and then we don't have that rampant shortages of petroleum product, I think the credit should go to them. However, they are business entities, so their interest is always what is paramount to them. And so when this policy was coming, I thought we were going to have it like a win-win. And so I recommended very strong and robust consultation between the policy champions and then the existing player, that is the petroleum service provider. That was done. But I think along the line, some things were not met. I mean, both parties, especially from the petroleum service provider side, they do have some concerns that are not resolved. So what I urge is that as long as we want to keep on with the policy, we need to go back to the drawing table to bring these people on board, to talk to them, whatever concern that they have, we have to be able to resolve it. Because if you have lingering concerns, apart from the huge problem that we already have with some of the problem that we already have with the policy, if we have issues of consultation bridges, I think it's not going to inure to the benefit of the policy entirely. So yes, I think there have to be more consultation. If some people are backing up, they have to be able, we have to know why they are backing out, and the government or the champions of the program will have to be able to resolve that. Thank you.
Right. Apart from the view that, the concern that stakeholder consultation was not extensive, do you believe that the unsuccessful nature of the program is what may have possibly compelled the parties to pull out?
Yeah, so I think it's just, it's typical the fact that, if a policy is coming and then you have an intended aim, and at this moment in time, it's almost seeming to be elusive, you will have a cause to be worried. And what we understood was that, I thought the policy would go to a complementary, and I also thought that for the policy to have shock the required success that is needed, or that has been bundled about, we should have been able to bring the required quantities that can meet, the deficit that we have. I always have a problem that the policy will be able to take part, and then other actors will also be able to, bring portion of it. And that kind of arrangement, there's always going to be a problem. And I think that is what is resolving today. So if, assuming the policy could take care of, let's say, 70 to 80%, or even 100 or 90%, I think we wouldn't have this. So by what we are seeing is that it appears the policy is not able to take care of that. And also what we are understanding is that some of the OMCs, or the postal service providers, they are able to get the product into the country at competitive rates, sometimes more competitive than gold for oil. Then in that case, where lies the policy in reducing the prices at the pump?
Right. Finally, just before we part company with you, given the prevailing circumstances, will you advocate for the program to be scrapped, or you think that ideally a review should be initiated?
Yeah, so I remember I spoke on it some time ago when I was asked a similar question. What I said was that government is bent on rolling out the program. In fact, the program is already in progress. So what I advocate is that we have to do what we call dynamic risk assessment of the program. At this moment in time, if you champion a program whose benefits, it's not commensurate or it's not proportionate to what you suppose or to the potential negative impact of it, then there's a problem. And in this case, that's what I'm thinking. The benefit is not commensurate with the potential negative impact of the program. What are the potential negative impact? The negative impact could be that is what is happening. Number one, the disruption in the sector. Then number two, also, we stand a chance of not having the required. Not be able to give a firm handle on the city, and that's what is happening. We haven't been able to have a firm handle on the city, and that's actually the main purpose of the program. So in that case, we have to do what I call risk assessment to weigh our benefits, and then is it proportional or is it commensurate with what we are trading off? And the trade-off, part of the trade-off is the fact that we are involving so many critical institutions to the program. Number one, BOS. Number two, Bank of Ghana. Number three, PMMC. These are critical institutions that we are involving into a program just to stabilize the city, when there are other alternatives that you can do that. And the problem is that it's not able to stabilize the city that we wanted to stabilize. At best, maybe it has minimized the depreciation rate, but that's not what we wanted. We wanted it to be able to come, to be able to stem control on the city, to have impact on the pumps. But at this moment in time, I think the program hasn't had any substantial impact on the pumps. And that's quite unfortunate. And the champions of the program will have to look at it and look at the successes and weigh against what we are trading off. Right. Are we ready to disturb these institutions just to stabilize the city that we are not able to stabilize, that we are not able to have a firm handle on at this moment in time? And in that case, I think the program needs to be reviewed. And if it cannot be reviewed, then we have to just advise ourselves.
All right, thank you very much. We're glad that you could speak to us. So Doc believes that a dynamic risk assessment is the way forward. Away from that, finance expert Joe Jackson has indicated that the country would not realize the full benefits of the IMF program until government finalizes a debt restructuring deal with external creditors. It follows concerns that the Ghana cedi is struggling to firmly stabilize despite securing an IMF program. But Mr. Jackson tells Joy Business that there are still some uncertainties that would be cleared when the page is closed with the debt restructuring.
The first thing is that you've got to look at two things. Number one is that the rates are still going to be high. The rates even from the central bank are high. So if you're going to be borrowing, the rates are not going to come down as quickly as you think. That's number one. Number two is there the capacity to borrow? Because we'll be looking very carefully at the companies you lend to and making sure that they can repay. Because remember that your balance sheets are already sick. So you've got to be very careful about lending. So you're going to see care, a lot of care about lending, not going out for so much risk, and high rates. That does not exactly bode well for businesses, because your banks are scrutinizing you carefully, and your the rates are still very high. So really, in the near future, and I'm talking the next 6 to 12 months, borrowing is not going to be easy.
IMF deal has helped in preventing fresh round of job layoffs by enterprises and shutdown of operations. That's the assertion by some business groups and manufacturing firms. On PM Express Business Edition, Mark Bedu-Abuaji, who is the chief executive of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, attributed this development to economic stability brought by the IMF program.
I'm very optimistic that the economy will rebound, but it will take some time. So my advice is that we should brace up for a difficult period for this year. Of course, if you look at the GDP growth of 1.6, as proposed by even the IMF and the World Bank, it surely shows that economic activity for this year will slow. And of course, it's the beginning of good things to come. So I think we were all too expectant. So we're expecting that right after the announcement, we would have seen a massive change in the macroeconomic environment, but it wouldn't work like that. Yes, I think there's a positive sign. The fact that the announcement was made, the fact that the deal is ongoing, people have now developed that confidence in our economy. We've heard of those who, proud to this deal, were sitting on the fence looking at what will happen. After that, there have been a number of calls congratulating us, at least for the fact that we've been able to strike this deal and the fact that it will bring confidence back into the economy. So I believe that within the next few months, things will improve. We are likely to get a lot of funding coming in. Even if you look at the support that has been announced by the World Bank, it clearly shows that after this policy credibility, the structural reforms that will come with it will also bring in a lot of money from development partners. And then the private sector, I strongly believe that people will now begin to invest in the economy.
Let's take a break at this juncture. The bulletin continues shortly. Now, farmers are being encouraged to consider the option of tree planting in diversifying their income. Aside from being a good source of revenue mobilization, it is also an opportunity to mitigate the impact of climate change. The Forest and Farm Facility says that policies should be adopted in efforts to restore the depleted vegetative cover of the country. Nanaya Ojima has more in the following report.
Research has established tree cover for cocoa farms improves yield. Nonetheless, farmers have shown little interest in growing trees because they are not guaranteed a tree tenure. Country coach for Forestry and Farm Facility, Sophie Gruels, says farmers should be educated to appreciate the economic and environmental benefits of trees on their farms.
What we try to do is diversify their farms. We think that it is very important that there is diversification, that there is also, of course, forest cover, that this is done in an ecological way. This is very important. So we also look how to green further this landscape, production landscapes. We think that diversification is a strategy for resilience. It's already proven scientifically that cocoa plants are much more will be more productive if they have a tree cover, so there would be a longer cycle that they can produce.
Ghana's forest over the years is being depleted for various factors. In restoration, government is embarking on an annual tree planting exercise, with the public being encouraged to participate. Sophie Gruels suggests a review of the tree tenure regulations of the country.
There was no tree tenure, so why would you care for a tree? If you own a tree, you will care for the tree. So it's really important for incentive-wise also that these cocoa producers also could own the other trees that they are planting, and there can be all kinds of species. Of course, not one species. Also, the indigenous species are very important. So there is a whole body of work around that, which we are supporting.
The Forest and Farm Facility is a global program that supports forest and farm producer organizations in improving livelihood and climate resilience. The facility, together with the International Institute of Environment and Development and other bodies, are on field visits to its catchment. For Joy News, Nanaya Ojima, Kumasi.
Now, illegal mining, also known as galamsey, continues to wreak havoc in Ghana as rivers and forests are destroyed. But it's not the only activity destroying fauna and flora. Large-scale farmers fetching the topsoil for crop nurseries also present a risk to the environment. But with the advent of soilless growing mediums to replace the topsoil, there appears to be reason for optimism. In today's edition of the Business Journal, we explore how some large-scale farmers are adopting soilless growing mediums to boost production and how cocoa board is also tagging along.
In the western region, farmers are hard at work on one of the lots of the Ghana Rubber Estate Limited, GREL, Ghana's biggest rubber plantation and processing company. Here, no topsoil is used. All seedlings are raised with an organic soilless medium. Shaibu Karimu Bayogo is Plantation Development Manager of GREL. He talks about the enormous benefits the company has derived from using the soilless medium.
Soilless medium one gives us better success rate compared to the one that was raised in the soil medium.
Shaibu says GREL completely replaced topsoil with a soilless medium to raise seedlings more than 10 years ago after discovering it produces better leaves, stems and roots.
The sprouting was also quite quick because the plant is less disturbed. You know, the fiber is so porous, and with the porosity of the fiber, the root network get itself entangled with the fiber. And so once it got entangled with the fiber, it means that you are able to pull out the plant with all the fiber around it intact. And with that, it suffers less shock. And so apart from the fact that it helps us to be able to do more, doing more in the sense that you are able to transport a lot at a time, and the distribution go faster, so which means you need less input in terms of labor. And so on the field too, we saw that the performance was quite better because it's shooting better because of less disturbance as a result of the fact that the root get entangled with the fiber and we plant, and then it shoots faster. So with that, when you plant, you are looking at a very high success rate in the region of 98%. That means that you are not going to come to do a lot of replacement.
Today, Cocoa Board, as part of its broad vision to boost cocoa production in Ghana, is switching from the use of topsoil to a soilless growing medium developed by an indigenous Ghanaian company, Chris Fiber Limited, in partnership with Atmos Logistics. Former director of the seed production division of Cocoa Board, Reverend Ahia Clote, explains further.
When I joined Cocoa Board in 1990, they were using topsoil, and that has been the only rooting medium used for decades. And with time, I realized that we're having challenges getting the topsoil, and we were winning the soil from our cocoa stations. And so we have most of our plots that are unproductive. The topsoil have been removed. I also realized that the topsoil we win from the cocoa stations are full of broken debris.
A full documentary airs tonight on the Joy News channel at 8:40 p.m. My name is Pakwisi Shando. Thanks for your company. Bye-bye.